Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. The evening sun stretched across the guava orchard, wrapping everything in a soft golden haze. Alex stood by the fence, watching Tuna move quietly among the trees, her figure gentle yet distant, like a melody fading before it ends. Between them hung a silence that said everything words could not. She looked up for a moment, smiled faintly, then went back to picking fruit. He wanted to speak, but the hush of the wind stopped him. Something about her calmness carried a sorrow he couldn't name. He didn't know yet that behind that quiet grace was a heart fighting a private battle, one that love alone might not heal. The breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying a question that lingered in his chest. Can patience reach a wounded soul? Don't forget to like and subscribe. The truth is just beginning to unfold. The days passed like the slow rhythm of falling leaves. Alex often returned to that orchard, pretending it was by chance, though both knew it wasn't. Sometimes they spoke of small things, the ripeness of guavas, the shifting seasons. Other times, silence filled the air, heavier than any word. Tuna worked with quiet precision, her hands steady but her eyes far away. Alex noticed the faint tremor when she thought no one was looking. He longed to ask, "What are you carrying alone?" but stopped himself each time. At night, in his office, city lights blurred beyond the window as he stared into the distance. His friend John's voice broke through the static of his thoughts. "You've been quiet lately, Alex. Is everything okay?" "It's Tuna," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "She won't let anyone close." "Then don't push," John said softly. "Let her come to you, but don't lose yourself in the waiting." Alex hung up but couldn't find rest. The next morning, the sunlight felt colder. Something in him told him she was slipping away, like sand through open fingers. That afternoon, he saw her walking back from the market. Shoulders heavy, steps uneven. There was no child beside her. A hollow ache rose in his chest. "Tuna," he called gently. She turned, startled, the fatigue in her eyes deeper than he had ever seen. "The fruit didn't sell well," she murmured. "It's fine." But it wasn't. Her voice wavered like thin glass ready to crack. "My son, he's sick," she whispered. "The fever's too high. I don't have enough for treatment." The words struck Alex like rain against open skin, sharp, real, cold. Without thinking, he reached out, taking her trembling hand in his. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. "Let me help." Tuna froze. Pride and fear flashed in her eyes. A silent battle between survival and trust. "I don't know if I can accept that." Her voice barely reached him, but he held her gaze with quiet steadiness. "I'm here, Tuna, whenever you're ready." The moment lingered, fragile, suspended between their two breaths. Somewhere beyond the orchard, the sun slipped below the horizon, and the world turned the color of longing. The small room smelled faintly of tea and rain-soaked wood. Alex sat across from Tuna, their shadows stretching long under the dim lamp. The soft hiss of boiling water filled the silence between them, a fragile sound, almost human. Tuna's hands rested on her lap, fingers intertwined, knuckles pale. The weight of her pride pressed heavier than the illness that haunted her child. "You don't have to worry about the money," Alex said, his voice low, careful. "Let me help. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." She shook her head, but her lips trembled. The words she wanted to say tangled somewhere between fear and gratitude. "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because I care," Alex replied simply. "You've been fighting alone for so long, but I can stand with you if you'll let me." The silence that followed was so deep it felt sacred. Outside, the rain began. Slow at first, then steadier, like the rhythm of her heartbeat. Each drop seemed to echo against the walls she had built for years. Tuna looked at him. There was something in his eyes, not pity, not obligation, but a quiet truth, unwavering as the rain. Her throat tightened. "I've been hurt before," she whispered, "and I don't know if I can open that door again." Alex leaned forward, the flicker of the lamp painting gold over his face. "You don't have to trust me right away, just don't shut me out." Her eyes glistened, reflecting the trembling light. The walls within her began to shift, not breaking yet but trembling, as if ready to listen. For the first time, Tuna spoke of her fear, the years of struggling alone, the judgment, the nights when her son's fever wouldn't break. "I thought if I depended on anyone again, I'd lose everything." Alex's voice softened into a whisper. "Maybe you've been losing more by keeping it all inside." The words landed like seeds in dry soil, quiet, patient, waiting for the rain to come. She looked at him, her heart torn between instinct and hope. "You make it sound easy," she said weakly. "No," he smiled faintly. "It's the hardest thing I've ever done, waiting for someone who's afraid to love again." Tuna turned away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. For a long moment, Alex said nothing. He just let the quiet speak for them. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Inside, something changed. Not in words, but in breath. In the way she didn't pull her hand away this time when he reached across the table. Her fingers rested in his palm, uncertain but present. The air felt lighter, the storm outside now echoing the one that had finally begun to ease within her. She didn't say yes. She didn't have to. And at that moment, everything changed. The rain had stopped by dawn, leaving the world wrapped in silver mist. The orchard shimmered under the soft light, every leaf heavy with quiet. Alex arrived early, his shoes sinking into the damp soil, unsure if Tuna would even open the door. When she did, she looked exhausted, eyes rimmed with sleeplessness, hair tied carelessly, her shoulders trembling under invisible weight. "He's worse," she said simply. Her son's fever hadn't broken through the night. Alex didn't hesitate. "Let's go," he said. "We'll take him to the hospital, now." Tuna froze. For a heartbeat, she looked ready to refuse, but something in his tone, not commanding, not pleading, simply steady, silenced her doubt. The next few hours blurred. The sound of the car engine, the hum of rain returning, the small fragile breaths of her son sleeping in her arms. At the hospital, Alex handled the paperwork, the bills, the doctor's words, all the details she couldn't face. Tuna sat by her son's bed, her fingers tracing his damp hair, whispering prayers she didn't know she still believed in. When Alex returned with the receipts, she didn't look up. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." Her tears came then, not loud, not dramatic, just silent streams cutting through exhaustion. For the first time, she didn't hide them. Alex didn't move closer. He just sat beside her, letting the silence breathe between them. Hours passed. Machines beeped softly, rain tapped against the glass, and the world outside faded. Tuna's walls had been made of pride, but pride could not hold back fear. When her son stirred, she looked up at Alex, eyes red, but calmer somehow. "You shouldn't have to wait for someone like me," she whispered. Alex smiled faintly. "Then maybe stop making me wait." It wasn't a confession, it wasn't even a promise. But in that moment, something fragile and real flickered between them, like the morning light finding its way through storm clouds. Days later, her son's fever finally broke. The doctor smiled, saying he'd recover soon. Relief washed through her, quiet and immense. Outside, sunlight painted gold across the hospital walls. Tuna found Alex sitting by the window, watching the sky. "You stayed," she said, her voice barely more than breath. "I told you," he replied, turning toward her. "I'm not going anywhere." She stepped closer, the floor creaking under her weight. There was still hesitation in her eyes, but now it carried warmth instead of fear. "I don't know what comes next," she admitted. "Neither do I," Alex said, "but maybe that's the point." The moment hung between them. Imperfect, human, beautiful. In that quiet, she reached for his hand. Her fingers trembled, but she didn't pull away. The world outside seemed to hold its breath, the rain, the wind, even the distant sound of life beyond the walls. The orchard, the silence, the waiting, all of it had led here. Not to a perfect ending, but to a beginning built on truth. Sometimes love doesn't arrive like a storm. It grows like light after rain, slow, persistent, gentle. And for the first time in a long time, Tuna let it in. Weeks later, the orchard bloomed again. The guava trees, once weighed down by silence, now carried soft bursts of white flowers. The air smelled of rain and renewal. Tuna stood beneath one of the trees, her hands brushing over the leaves still wet with morning dew. The child's laughter echoed faintly from the house, a fragile sound once lost to fever, now returned like sunlight after days of storm. Alex approached quietly, his footsteps blending with the rustle of wind. He stopped a few paces behind her, not wanting to break the stillness. She turned, meeting his gaze with a small, unguarded smile. "I used to think peace meant being alone," she said. "That if I depended on no one, nothing could hurt me." Alex nodded, eyes soft. "And now?" Tuna looked toward the sky, pale blue after the rain, streaked with gold. "Now I think peace is knowing someone will stay, even when you're not ready to believe in them." He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, brushing his thumb gently over the scar on her hand, a gesture neither romantic nor casual, but deeply human. She didn't pull away. For a long moment, they simply stood there. No promises, no declarations, only the quiet understanding that love sometimes begins not with words, but with endurance. The guava leaves swayed, scattering light over them like a benediction. Somewhere in the distance, the world kept moving. Cars, voices, 1,000 ordinary things. But here, time moved differently. Tuna finally spoke, her voice a whisper carried by the breeze. "Maybe love doesn't end. It just changes shape." Alex smiled. "Maybe it becomes what we need it to be." She nodded slowly, letting the wind dry the last traces of tears on her cheeks. Then she reached for his hand. not as a plea, not as surrender, but as quiet acceptance. The sky above them widened, vast and luminous. The orchard shimmered under sunlight, and for the first time, both of them felt the same stillness. The kind that doesn't come from ending, but from beginning again. And in that silence, love finally found its voice.
Alex tìm được Tử Na sau những ngày dài tìm kiếm, nhưng trong lòng anh vẫn đầy nghi ngờ đứa cô mang có sự thật là của anh không. Khi sự thật được tiết lộ rằng đứa bé không mang dòng máu của anh, thế giới của họ tưởng như sụp đổ. Nhưng giữa im lặng và đau đớn, Alex chọn ở lại, không vì quanh lãng, vì thấu hiểu Tử Na mang ơn, nỗi sợ dần tìm mình ra. Tình yêu không phải là sở hữu mà là nội dung. Dưới ánh sáng bình minh, họ cùng nhau trở lại trang trại, nơi những vết thương chữa lành, nhưng niềm tin bắt đầu nảy mầm trở lại.